Hey guys, I'm Dave, aka Aviark. That's my DJ name. In this short lecture, I'm going to walk you through a crash course on tonal harmony. So basically what that means is I'm going to walk you through my process when it comes to selecting chords to make a song that is accessible to people that listen to a lot of Western music. So hopefully by the end of this course, if you watch the entire video, you should be able to confidently write out chord progressions that create a song that sounds good and that is applicable to many different forms or many different genres of Western music, like dance music or pop music, country, rock, just like any of those genres and many more. Basically, this is just a crash course on basic chord progression and harmony in songwriting, the very fundamentals. It is important to kind of preface this little lecture by mentioning that I am operating under the assumption with this lesson, I'm going to be operating under the assumption that you have at least rudimentary understanding of how to read a 5-line staff in standard notation. So basically what I'm saying, what I mean when I say that is like, this is a C and you understand that, this is an E flat, this is an F, and this is a G, right? So I don't need to explain that this is a treble clef. Like, you at least have some very fundamental understanding of some basic standard notation concepts in Western classical music theory. But yeah, even having said that, I'll try to walk you through everything just in the simplest way possible for maximum comprehension. And of course, if there are any questions or if there's any confusion at the end of this lesson, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and I'm happy to clarify anything. And without further ado, I'm going to sit down so you can see everything. So basically, tonal harmony, what that means. Oh, and the other thing I'll kind of give you like the format of this little lecture is that I'm going to kind of explain everything theoretically on this TV and maybe a little bit on the board, kind of what I'm talking about. It might make sense. Most likely there's going to be at least some confusion. Don't worry, just try to bear with me, because at the end I'll give you some examples of what I'm talking about so you know what I'm talking about. Basically, you're going to understand everything a lot more towards the end of the video when I'm actually doing it in real time and giving you the examples, and so you can hear what it sounds like and everything. So if some stuff just doesn't make sense like at the beginning, just kind of bear with me, and yeah, just bear with me, and it will make sense, I promise you. So in tonal harmony, what I mean by that is that, like, I'm going to teach you what this means. This is the keys to the kingdom right here. Now that's pretty self-explanatory. I probably don't even really need to explain it. I could probably stop the video there, but you know, it's actually major key. We're not going to use the major key because actually this is important to mention. In a lot of Western music, a lot of pop music and electronic music, a lot of songs do not use a major key. They use actually a minor key, and the reason for that, I think, is that when you write a song in a major key, it just sounds really happy, like too happy, you know, and that's not accessible. That's not a good mirror of the human experience, because I guess there's good parts and there are bad parts. So I guess that might be the reason why. But from what I've found, 90% of Western modern popular music is going to be written in a minor key, with a few exceptions, of course. But the minor one looks it's a little bit easier to understand, but don't worry about that right now. I'm going to explain everything about that and its application. So, yeah. All right, this slide is just kind of a quickie on Roman numerals. This is for communication. I'm going to be in this lesson. I'm going to kind of communicate a lot with Roman numerals. This is just a crash course, a quickie on Roman numerals. So if you're rusty on your Roman numerals, well, 1 is going to be a capital I or a lowercase I. 2 is capital 2 I's and lowercase 2 I's, and so on. This is pretty easy, you know, standard stuff. So if you're rusty on your Roman numerals 1 through 7, go ahead and jot these down. I am going to use them quite a bit in this lesson, so it is important to have at least some understanding around these. So yeah, take a second to jot those down. All right, this is another thing. So you probably know that there's going to be in music theory, in the harmonic universe, there are 12 keys. You know, C major, C minor, D major, D minor, G, F, A flat, whatever. But for the purposes of this lesson and this demonstration, for simplicity and clarity, I'm just going to use the C minor natural scale. And we already talked about how I'm using the minor and not the major because for whatever reason it is songs written in a minor scale. Sorry. Songs written in a minor scale are a little bit more accessible and just for whatever reason sound better to the listener than in a major scale. So for the purposes of this lesson and this demonstration, we're going to be using the C natural minor scale, which I like this illustration because it shows you on like the C natural minor scale on the 5-line staff in standard notation in treble clef. So like this is C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. Okay, but the reason I like this illustration is that it also shows the piano, where it is on the piano. If you're anything like me, kind of seeing it like this or having a piano in front of you really helps me to visualize things like this. And if I'm being honest, a lot of the songs that I write when I'm thinking about stuff like this, I do kind of visualize it in terms of how it looks on a keyboard or on a piano. So yeah, this is for reference. We're going to be using only this scale for this lesson. But the information that I give you on this lesson is going to be applicable to any minor key. So F minor, G minor, E flat minor, whatever. This information is going to be applicable to that. All right, and this slide is kind of just telling you how the Roman numerals are fitting into this. So I'm kind of combining the first couple of slides. So again, this same illustration, C, D, E flat, and so on. But this slide is really to associate that the C is the 1, the D is 2, E flat is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A flat is 6, 7, and then of course C, which is the 8th note of the scale and also the 1st note of the scale. So yeah, it's going to be 1 again. You might be asking yourself, why are some of the Roman numerals lowercase and why are some uppercase? And also, what is this little degree symbol here? So I'm not going to get too far into that because it's not too terribly important. But it is important for at least the degree symbol. It's not too terribly important at the moment when you're first kind of learning this stuff. But I will mention that the difference between lowercase and the uppercase, typically in music theory, when you're describing something that is minor, you're going to use a lowercase Roman numeral. Okay, so in this case, it is describing a minor triad built on 1, which is C in this key. And like for this one, it's going to be 3. It's going to be a major triad built on the 3 of the scale, which in this case is E flat. Okay. So really, this Roman numeral is telling you that for the context of this lesson and then the formula I'm going to show you, these are the triads. This is describing the triad or little like 3-note snowman that you're going to build on top of these notes. And I'll kind of get into that in a second so you kind of understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, for the purposes of the slides, it's just important really to understand that the difference between the lowercase and uppercase Roman numerals is that the lowercase Roman numeral will be describing something that is a minor and uppercase is major. Okay, don't worry about the degree symbol, and also to understand that 1 is C, 2 is D, and so on. Okay. All right. Now, this is like what I showed you on that paper, right? Same thing. This is the tonal harmony chart in a minor key, kind of like the simplified version. This is the most important thing that I will show you today, okay? Or ever, really. This is probably the #1 most used thing in like my music theory arsenal when it comes to writing songs. Especially songs that are going to be like in a dance music context, or if I'm sitting in with a rock band or whatever. When I'm composing music for those contexts, for a popular, like accessible kind of listener, I'm going to use this before anything else. I use this almost every time I write a song. At this point, it has become second nature. I've memorized this, right? And so if you take nothing else away from this lesson, please just copy this down. Okay? Again, minor. There's a major one as well. You know, this one, which is a little bit more involved, but we're going to use just a minor one because, not like I said, 90% of popular music is written in a minor key. Okay? And so please take a picture of this or write it down, whatever. And I'll explain exactly what it is here in a second. And again, this is going to be kind of where it gets a little bit complicated, right? So hopefully I will explain it in a way that makes as much sense as possible. But if there is some confusion, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or put it in the comments or something so that someone else can give you some clarity around that kind of thing, okay? So these are the Roman numerals that describe, right, the same thing as the previous slide, right? That's these Roman numerals, okay? So when you're looking at this chart, these are describing triads. So when I say triad, I mean, see how this is an F, okay? A triad is going to be the little snowman that you build on top. It's going to be the A and the C. This is a triad, okay? This is a F minor triad, which is a 4 chord in the key of C minor, okay? The reason it is a minor is because in C minor you have B flat, E flat, and A flat, and if you build a triad, which is really just the 3 notes, right? The snowman, this is a triad. Now, let me write that down. Okay? This is a triad. When you build a triad on the 4, which is F, and you build it just like a triad is supposed to be built, in the key of C minor, which has A flat, it sounds sad. It's F, A flat, C. If that A flat was a regular A, an A natural, if it was just A or F, A, C, it wouldn't be an A flat, right? So it wouldn't fit in the key of C minor, but it would sound happy. If that were the case, if it was not a flat, okay, right now it's a flat because it's in the key, right? If it was not a flat, it would sound happy. And this would be an uppercase for Roman numeral, okay? But like I said, in the key of C minor, the A is flat, so therefore when you have a triad built on the 4, it's going to be a sad sounding or minor triad, okay? So that's what this is. This Roman numeral right here describes this exact triad right here. F, A flat, C. The minor 4, which is in the key of C minor, okay? And yeah, so like this, let's see, this 3, big 3, is going to be, you guessed it, the triad built on E flat. And the reason that it is an uppercase Roman numeral, I actually have an example right here. Here, let's build the triad. So, right, little snowman. The reason that it's an uppercase 3 and not a lowercase 3 is because when, and remember in C minor you have B flat, E flat, and A flat, right? That's E flat. That's going to be the 3rd, right? E flat is the 3rd note of the C minor scale, right? So when you build a triad on the E flat, like we've done here, E flat, G, and also remember that the B is going to be flat as well. We've got a B flat as well. So yeah, let's just label both of those. So that when you play that on a piano or whatever, E flat, G, B flat, it sounds happy. It's a major triad, as opposed to the F minor triad that we had earlier, which includes the A minor. So it's going to be F, A minor, C, It's a sad sounding triad. Okay, there's a reason for that. It's a lowered third, but we don't remember that. You don't have to remember that necessarily. It's going to get a little complicated, but yeah. Like I said earlier, the uppercase Roman numerals are indicative of the fact that it will sound happy or major. It is a major triad, and the lowercase are the minor triads. Okay, so I guess it is important to mention that let's say a major triad versus a minor triad. All right, let's just write that. I hope you can see this. I know that this board isn't too big in that camera, but the major triad, the difference between a major triad and a minor triad is that a major triad is going to sound happy. Okay, minor triad is going to have this note right here is going to be lowered, okay, or flat, right? Sometimes it's flat. If it's already in a sharp key, like an F sharp, if it's in the key of F sharp or whatever, lowered just means natural, but it just means lowered. For the purposes of this, just understand that the minor triad means that the third of the triad is going to be lowered, okay? Which makes a sad sound, okay? I'll just explain real quick, not incredibly important for you to understand right now, but that the little degree symbol, okay? So let's just say that we've got, oh well, that's not really, doesn't really make sense, okay? So let's say we have the 2, the minor 2. It's really a diminished 2. That's what this means. Is that the degree symbol means diminished. Okay. This is not something, again, you really need to know, but a diminished triad, remember, the Roman numerals are describing the triad, all 3 notes, right, that are built on whatever number it's indicating, okay? The diminished means that not just the third is lowered, but also the 5th is lowered as well, okay? It sounds even more sad, really. It sounds kind of tragic. But anyways, let me kind of explain what I'm talking about with this chart. So, yeah, the Roman numerals are the triads built on the number. We already covered that, but let me kind of explain what the formula itself means. So this is the keys to the kingdom, all right? This will enable you to write any chord progression that follows the rules of this chart will sound good. Without exception, these are the rules of harmony, you know, and many composers have learned these rules, and as a result, all of the songs that they write involving the rules of this progression, they sound good, harmonically speaking. So let me explain. If it's at 1 chord, you can go to any of them. Okay. Well, it's actually going to be hard to explain this theoretically, and a little bit easier to do it with an example. Okay, so I'm not even going to try to do it theoretically. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to turn on my sound here because I want you to be able to hear what I'm talking about.
Power on.
There we go.
Bluetooth pairing.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. So, I have written 2 examples. So ignore the TV now. All right. I have written 2 examples of what I'm talking about. When you write chords, so I have the example, I have song 1, okay, and song 2. I've written 2 songs. They're very short. They're only 4 measures long. And in each song, I have 4 chords, okay? I have a 1 chord, a 3 chord, a 4 chord, and a 5 chord, okay? 1, 3, 4, 5, right? And they are chords. When I say chord, I mean triad. A 1 triad, 3 triad, 4 triad, and a 5 triad. Real quick, I'm going to pull this up again. Sorry. All right, just so that you kind of get what I'm talking about with this chart. According to this chart, the reason the 1 chord has an arrow that kind of goes out is that the 1 chord can go to any other Roman numeral in the harmonic universe. Okay, so after you play the 1 chords, which is this chord, right? You can go to any chord. So dealer's choice. You can choose if you want to go to the 5 or the 4 or the 3, whatever. In this case, in this song, I decided to go to the 3 chord. Okay, so I went from here to the 3 chord. Now, where do I go from here? What is going to sound good after the 3 chord, the major 3 triad built on the 3rd of the scale? I chose to go to the 4. Okay, and I can do that. You can see that this arrow indicates that it is possible for the 3 to go to the 4, and that theoretically, according to this chart, it should sound good. Okay, and the last chord is from the 4 to the 5, and again, you see that the 4 has this arrow that indicates that theoretically I should be able to go from the 4 to the 5, and it will sound good for this. Okay, so without even having heard anything, without playing the piano or whatever, I know theoretically that this chord progression should sound good. It should sound harmonically pleasing to the ear, but doing things theoretically, especially for a musician, is bullshit. So I'm gonna go ahead and write it out so we can listen to it. Okay. So I've actually already done that. So actually, what I did first is I wrote this 1, 3, 4, 5 chord progression out, and what I did first is that I played it. It's just the root note. It's just the bottom note of the chord. So that's the C, E flat, F, and the G. Okay. So after that, I built the triad on top. I mean, that's a piano sound, by the way, just for whatever, for clarity. That is going to be the piano playing this chord progression, which in this iteration I actually did fill in the triad on top of each chord, so you'll be able to hear that now. Right? Okay. And you can, after that, you can start to get crazy. You can add a little melody or a little. Or even a little bit crazier. So basically with that chord, we heard that it sounds pretty good, right? It sounds harmonically pleasing. And with that framework, even with just with the root note of each triad, with that framework, we can make it as complex as we would like to. And we know that it will sound good, even before hearing it, okay? So I'll do one more example. I have another example here, song number 2, and then I'll let you go. So let's pull that chart up again real quick. Okay. So here in this example, I have the 1. Of course, we start on 1 in a lot of songs in pop music or whatever. We started on the 1 because if you're going to have a C in C minor, you started on a C minor chord. A lot of times that just makes sense. Okay, so pretty much every song I've ever written starts on the 1 chord of whatever key I'm writing in. Okay, so in this song I start again on C minor. These are both in C minor. So because remember that the arrow goes out, that it can go to any other chord in this chart. And so I chose then to go to a 5 chord, which is right here. Okay. After that, I have a few options. I can go to a diminished 7 chord, or I can go to 1, or I can go to the 6. So what I did is I chose to go to the 6. Okay, because of this arrow, we see that 5 can go to this major triad built on the 6th note of the scale, which is A flat in C minor, right? So we see that this is an A flat, and the last chord of this little short song, we went to 4, and because of this arrow, we see that it can in fact go to a minor 4, which was the chord we were talking about earlier, is an F minor triad with F, A flat, and C. So sad minor sounding, or minor triad that is sad sounding. And that's my song. I'm going to go ahead and fill the triads up in here so that we know that that's what we're doing. Okay. So we have the minor sad sounding triad, which is C minor, built on the one of the key, which is C. Okay. And then the happy major sounding triad, which is the 5, which is built on the 5 of the key, which is G. And then another happy major sounding triad, which is going to be A flat, C, E flat, and then the last one is going to be the 4, the minor triad of the A or the F, which is F, A flat, C, like we went over earlier. And now again, we know technically that it should sound good because we follow the rules of this chart. That this sound or this song should win a Grammy, just as it is, without even having heard it. We should be getting a Grammy for this. But because it's more fun and awesome to listen to it. Again, I did the same thing with this example in that I did just the first note, the root note of each triad, so you hear what I'm talking about in the progression of the chord. Okay, so we got C, G, A flat, F. Okay. Right, so that's just now, that was just the root. Now we're going to do the triads. Sounds already pretty good, right? So, now it's when it gets fun. That's when you can really get fun. Right? That's when you start the songwriting process starts to get really fun. One more note before I let you go. One more note, no pun intended. One more footnote, I guess, on this chart. As with many things in life, but definitely with music theory, these are the rules, right? These are the rules for a tonal harmony chart in a minor key in Western classical music theory, the simplified version. But you can break these rules, right? But it is imperative that you first learn the rules before you start trying to venture out. You know, there's other chord progressions or other arrows, I guess, that are not listed in this chart that still sound good harmonically speaking. So, like, for example, I sometimes go from the 1 to the 6 and then to the 3, although there's no arrow going backwards. That sounds good for me, and you know, you do find that a lot in my own music as well as many other pop songs and other popular music. And so this is not the end-all be-all of rules in harmony, but this is the foundation, right? So definitely learn this, copy this down, memorize it. And if you use this when you write your songs, they will sound good every time, I promise you. And yeah, thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you got something out of this lesson. If you need help with any of this, if you need clarity or a little bit of coaching, whatever, just hit me up, and I'll put my email in the comments, or yeah, and just I'd be happy to walk you through it. I love doing this kind of stuff, and happy music making.